Someone says something that should not matter, and it consumes your entire day. A look, a comment, a silence that lasted too long, and somewhere inside, something breaks again. Most people spend their lives reacting. They are pulled around by forces they never learn to master. A word ruins their peace. A rejection rearranges their identity. A stranger's opinion enters their mind and stays there for days. But there is another way to live. There is a state of psychological mastery, where nothing outside of you holds the power you once gave it. That is not coldness. It is not numbness. It is not pretending not to care. It is the result of specific inner work, the kind Carl Jung spent his life trying to explain. Because nobody and nothing truly controls you, unless it touches something inside you that is still unstable, unseen, or unhealed. It is easy to believe your pain comes from the outside, from betrayal, from rejection, from difficult people, from a world that does not care. And on the surface, that seems true. Someone ignores you. You feel it. Someone criticizes you. You feel it. Someone leaves you. You feel it. But Jung argued something far more unsettling. The outside world is a mirror. The people who trigger you are not always creating something new inside you. Very often, they are revealing a psychological reality that was already there. A buried insecurity, an old wound, a fear you never fully faced. A part of you that still depends on the outside world to feel stable. That is why two people can go through the same event and experience two completely different inner worlds. One collapses, the other stays centered. The event is not the whole story. The inner structure is. And real freedom begins when you realize a mirror cannot hurt you. Only what you see in it can. Jung called this the shadow. Not a metaphor, a psychological reality. The shadow is the part of your psyche made up of everything you were taught to hide, repress, or deny. The anger you learned was unacceptable, the grief you called weakness, the envy you felt ashamed of, the hunger to be chosen, the fear of being ordinary, the pain of being unseen. None of this disappears just because you push it out of sight. It goes underground. And what goes underground does not stop influencing your life. It waits. Then one small moment happens. A text goes unanswered. Someone challenges your ideas. Someone speaks to you with disrespect. Someone overlooks you. And suddenly, the reaction is larger than the event itself. Why? Because it was never only about the moment. It was about everything beneath it. Jung called this projection. We take what we cannot bear to face in ourselves and experience it through others. So the problem is not always the person in front of you. The deeper problem is that the event touched something in you already loaded with pain, meaning, and memory. And as long as you keep pointing outward, nothing changes. Here is the hard truth. Nobody is doing this to you, in quite the way you think. Yes, people are flawed. Yes, some are careless. Yes, some are cruel. Yes, life can be unfair. But your suffering is intensified by the meaning your inner world assigns to what happens. Your nervous system is not only reacting to the present, it is reacting to everything unresolved inside you. This is not blame, it is responsibility. And responsibility is not a punishment. It is power. Because if the pain comes from inside, so does the cure. You are the one assigning meaning. You are the one carrying old wounds into new moments. You are the one giving power to rejection when your identity depends on being chosen. You give power to criticism when you have not made peace with imperfection. You give power to disrespect when your worth still depends on external confirmation. And if meaning can be given, meaning can also be changed. That is one of Jung's hardest and most liberating truths. The outside world may trigger the wound, but it does not own the wound. You do. And that means you can heal it. Jung called the path to self-mastery individuation. It is the process of becoming who you actually are, instead of who you were conditioned to be. Most people do not live from the center of themselves. They perform. They perform strength to avoid looking weak. They perform happiness because sadness feels unacceptable. They perform confidence while privately depending on other people to feel valuable. They perform certainty because they fear being exposed. And performance is exhausting, because every moment of life becomes a threat to the mask. Individuation begins when you stop performing and start telling the truth to yourself. Not to the world first, to yourself. You look directly at the angry parts, the needy parts, the ashamed parts, the frightened parts, the wounded parts. And instead of rejecting them, you say, "This is also me." Not to glorify dysfunction, not to excuse weakness, but to integrate what has been split off. Because what you integrate no longer controls you from the dark. What becomes conscious stops ruling you unconsciously. And that is the beginning of freedom. Jung also warned about another trap, the persona, the social mask you wear to function in the world. The competent version of you, the agreeable version, the impressive version, the composed version, the version designed to be accepted. There is nothing wrong with having a persona. We all need one. The danger begins when you forget it is a mask. Because once you believe you are the performance, every criticism feels like annihilation, every failure feels like exposure, every rejection feels like proof that your identity is unstable. And so you become reactive, defensive, rigid, easy to shake. Not because you are weak, but because you built your sense of self on something fragile. Mastery does not require destroying the mask. It requires wearing it, consciously. Knowing the role is not the self. Knowing the image is not the essence. Knowing what others see must never become the foundation of who you are. Because once your identity is rooted deeper than appearance, people lose much of their ability to disturb you. To become unshakable, you must replace reaction with one honest question. What is this reaction showing me about myself? This is shadow work, not a trend, not a performance, not spiritual decoration. A daily practice of ruthless self-inquiry. When something steals your peace, do not suppress the reaction. Do not immediately obey it. Feel it. Then ask, why did this hit so hard? What belief did it touch? When have I felt this before? What old pain just came back to the surface? Most of the time, the answer does not begin today. It goes back, further than this person, further than this argument, further than this one disappointing moment. And when you trace the reaction to its root, the trigger begins to lose its grip. Not instantly, but steadily. The world stops feeling like a place that is constantly attacking you, and starts becoming a place that reveals you, so you can become conscious and choose differently. Self-knowledge is among the most important work a human being can do. The alternative is a life lived in reaction, chasing approval, avoiding discomfort, blaming the world, and running from the parts of yourself you never learned to face. But if you choose to look inward, something extraordinary happens. Nobody and nothing will affect you again in the old way. Not because the world becomes gentle, but because you became whole. And a whole person cannot be ruled by a half-healed wound. If this spoke to something real in you, stay close to this work. Because the moment you stop asking, how do I control the world around me, and start asking, what in me still gives the world this much power, your transformation begins. And that is where freedom starts.